about what I recommend out of the traditional methods to stop binge eating. I get to see a lot of people are confused as to what they can do to help them control or have control when it comes to binge eating, food compulsions, and that feeling of overwhelm and out of control when it comes to food. And as you know, if you've been struggling with destructive eating behaviors for so long, there are so many different things that people recommend. Just to name a few, like cutting out certain food groups, abstinence to sugar, abstinence to gluten, abstinence to carbs, meal plans, calorie counting if you're if you want to lose excess weight, traditional therapy, also counseling, psychotherapy, meditation, yoga, journaling, and to name that's the things that comes to mind straight away. And having suffered from back-to-back addictions, not just binge eating has always been in my life since, I guess, since as far as I could remember. There you go, I'm just making sure I'm not flashing you guys there. So yeah, binge eating, I mean, before I recovered, I cannot really pinpoint the time when I had a normal relationship to food, because when I was a child, food was very much a reward, especially when I was, like a small child, like 5. My mum would be away working a lot, and as kids we would go to McDonald's or places that we would have sweets and things like that. So for me, it was more about the food, which I'm sure a lot of you can relate to, if you have an unhealthy relationship to food, because I'd hazard a guess, often when you're binge eating or have these compulsions of eating, you're not really physically hungry. You don't have that hunger pain or pang or whatever you call that feeling of hunger. Most of my clients who come to me actually have disconnected so much with that feeling, and often it's more of an emotional overwhelm urge. So to answer the questions, out of all those modalities that you get advice or go to different kind of professionals or friends, or what you can read in the paper, out of all that, my recommendation, if you cannot afford to see a specialist just like myself that gets to the core problem of the binge eating, and I'll talk about that in a moment, if you want to do something for yourself out of all that modality, I would recommend things like journaling. I know it's a contradiction to all my videos, and I'll explain to you later, but if I had to choose out of all those modalities, it will be journaling, meditation, yoga, and breathing. The reason why I recommend those 4, and there may be maybe 1 or 2 as well that I would approve of if it comes to trying to help yourself to overcome binge eating or compulsions, is because these 4 things that I've just mentioned, it helps get to the core of the problem. And the reasons why I choose these 4 things, as opposed to things like dieting, abstinence to sugar, calorie counting, macros, and meal plans, is because it is never about the food. And I can swear and put my hand on my heart that after working with hundreds of clients and having suffered from over 2 decades of addictions, including binge eating myself, that when we got to the root cause or the core of the origin of what is driving those compulsions, it's not the food. And the reason why I say it's not the food is because when you find the root or the cause or the origin of that, those compulsions literally disappear just like that. And if it was about the food, it would not just go just like that. That's how I help my clients stop those compulsions, literally of a drop of a hat. If it was about the food, that would not happen. Okay, so going back to why I recommend, if you're doing this by yourself and you can't afford to see somebody like me, for example, or you're not ready or you're not too sure and you want to try something for yourself, the reasons why things like journaling, meditation, yoga, and breathing, those are the 4 things that comes to mind that you could do yourself right now that will help get closer to the root, is because what is driving, what is behind those compulsions, those binge eating urges, is in the subconscious mind. So what yoga does and what breathing does, what journaling does, and what did I say, and meditation, it gets you to that place, that state of mind where you can get closer to this subconscious mind which is driving those behaviors. And the reason why it's so important for you to do that is because it's this battle between the conscious and the subconscious that is keeping you in this loop of being on the wagon, off the wagon, binging and not binging, feeling happy and not happy. It's that conflict of the two. But when you do the practices like the journaling, the yoga, the meditation and the breathing, it allows you to calm that conscious mind, calm that chatter in your mind, so that you can get closer to what's really happening. However, these will help you from one day to the next to be able to have some sort of control over these compulsions and urges. But it will not resolve the problem. So these, it will get you closer. It will have you, if you will, get to a point where you can live to a certain extent and get you to a point where you can have some sort of control back in your life. Because when you're more at peace and you're not living in reaction, so if you think about it, if you're calmer, if you've ever, if you have these compulsions and these urges, do you find that they're usually triggered by moments where you're stressed or triggered or like anxious or angry or pissed off at someone? The chances of you binging are exponentially increased by those moments. But if you think about the yoga and the breathing and the meditation and the journaling, you write these things down, you're a more calmer state, it just lessens the chances of you going for those compulsions, lessens the chances of those urges being reactivated for you to binge. So, and now moving on to, to how I would, the reasons why I usually say that these things are good up to an extent is because even though you're in a calmer place, it really doesn't resolve the real problem, which really lies underneath. And unless you find someone that can help you and that right tools for you to get to that cause, that thing that is driving those urges, it is going to be a lifelong practice, like this yoga, journaling, breathing and meditation. It will be a lifelong practice, which is fine for some people. I was going to say for most people, but if you're anything like me, that I suffered from addictions for over 2 decades, I did all those practices. But it is exhausting. It really is exhausting, because it only literally makes it livable to have it in your life, if you know what I mean. I hope you know what I mean. I don't see the comments, so I'm really sorry. I have to answer your comments after the live video. And what I do with my clients who've consistently recovered so quickly is because we get to that root cause, the driver of what is making them have those binge eating, those urges, those compulsions. And when they are undone, and when they release whatever that is, if you can imagine, would you binge if there was no urges? Would you have a compulsion to do something if the compulsion isn't even there? So when you sort out whatever it is that is going on, which I do with my clients, there is no need to do yoga. There is no need to do meditation or journaling or breathing, because you wouldn't need to just keep it at bay, because there wouldn't be anything at bay. And yeah, of course, I'm not saying that life would be hunky-dory, you'll be dancing around, putting daisies in your hair, because life happens, we're humans, there's life challenges. But what will happen now, after being recovered, that you wouldn't have to go and binge every time something happens in your life, something like a stressful event happens in your life. You wouldn't go straight to food, because it wouldn't make sense in your life anymore. You would deal with the stresses in your life like a normal person, if there is a normal person. For like me, if I get stressed, I just sit with it. I go for a walk. And those are the tools that you've been taught. You probably heard, go for a walk, go and call a friend, go to the cinema, get your nails done, have a nice hot bath. You can do that once you're in the state of mind to be able to do that. But when you're still in this binge eating compulsion cycles, I know personally, in my personal experience, when somebody said to me, go and phone a friend, I'll be like binging away and thinking, I should be phoning my friend. And then I'll be like, I'll go for a walk, and I'll be binging while I'm going for a walk. It doesn't work, because you're so in it. It doesn't work. So again, this video is like my recommendations if you cannot or not in a position to have that problem resolved by some, a specialist like myself. Those are the 4 things that will help you lessen the chances of those urges. So anyway, like I said, like with all my videos, I'm not here to tell you how to eat, when to eat, what food to eat, because I'm sure, just like all my other clients, you know exactly what to do. But my job here is to help you start those cogs working in your mind, because that's where all the answers will be, to help you eventually recover for good, just like I have now for over 10 decades. So anyway, I hope this video looks fine and I haven't had any internet disruptions. If you have any questions, send me a personal message and I'll be happy to answer them for you. So until next time, keep strong.